Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to see you here at the first round of the Karpov International Chess Tournament. Right now, it's 11 a.m. and the first round has started. 5 pairs, 10 participants, and very intelligent chess tournament. So, right now, we are going to look at the boards to understand how it unfolds. So let's do that. Open our boards on Lichess right now, right here, and start to look how it works. As you see, the tournament hall is very aesthetic. As for me, 5 tables, 10 participants, the arbiter, the main arbiter, and other arbiters here. A lot of cameramen to show you the atmosphere here. So, everything is perfect, as it should be. Okay. The first board, right here, d4, knight f6. Akuban Aram plays white, Glidora Benjamin plays black. Yes, my name is Dasha. I didn't tell you that, but right now it's good time to introduce myself. My name is Dasha, I'm Woman FIDE Master, I'm a commentator in this tournament. So nice to meet you. Thank you. And right now I'm going to continue speaking about chess. So, what's going on? What's going on? It's my most regular question to myself, in my life. So I think it's important. It's important. So 2 moves in the first board. It's good, but not enough to, show us a particular variation. So maybe in other boards we have more moves. Let's check that. And in the same time, I can introduce you all the participants. So we should do that. The second board, Lazavik Denis plays white, Gribnev Alexei plays black. It's something interesting here because I see bishop before the pawn, before the central pawn. Usually we got used to see this pawn on d4. But this strange. Let's look at the first moves. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. Russian game. So symmetrical variation, the main line, knight f3, knight takes e4, and bishop d3. I'm not sure that I know this move, so I want to check the statistics of this position. Statistics doesn't want to appear in my computer because I forget to open my account on Lichess. As you know, or maybe you don't, to show the statistics of the previous games, you need to open your own account. So that's new information for me. Okay, we'll check that in the break. Right now, according to my own memory, I want to tell you that usually knight c3 plays, white plays knight c3, d4 is the most popular, if I remember right, to open this square for the bishop after d4. As for bishop d4, bishop d3 right here, I think that's new thing, at least for me. Maybe not for others, but as for me, it's something new. It looks like our bishop from c1 wants to go on b2 with fianchetto, but that's not really a regular thing for, Russian game. So interesting. Knight returns on f6. White follow with short castling and bishop e7. Looks like okay for the both sides. So b3, bishop b2, knight c3, rook e1. It's easy to finish your development. Not so common thing, as I told 100 times before. But bishop f1. That was the idea of Denis. I like that. Technically, our long distance pieces, bishops, rooks, and queen sometimes can do all their job from the initial place because they don't need to stay close to the aim. They can do that from the long distance. That's the point why bishop on f1 stays correct. So he works, and the main idea of white And I think is d4 in any case, c4, knight c3. Okay. So let's go to the next position, next game I wanna tell. So the third board is a game between Vahidov Shamsidin and Ilishonok Ilya. What we see here, let's look at the board and try to understand something. Okay, it was a French defense, e4, e6, d4, d5. The main line of theory, c3, knight f3, bishop d7, avoiding the spin from the diagonal. It was predictable, and bishop e2. You know, if you didn't learn this opening, it looks like bishop d3 looks better. But usually the main point in the French defense is d4, and it's important to white, protecting the square by the queen. So that's why our bishop likes to stay on e2, to avoiding and interfering of the queen. I hope that everything is correct with my English grammar, but I'm feeling that something goes wrong. But okay, in any case, you understand me, and that's enough to communication. So right now we see a solid, calm variation of French defense, and I think everything would after. Okay, the fourth pair. Lu Shanlei, the top chess player from China, plays with Zemlansky e1. So what's happening here? Another variation of French defense. Today is a trend, French defense. Knight f6. That's interesting because usually French defense is not the popular opening, but right now we already see. So you understand. So 2 games of 4 with Russian game. It's a patriotic thing or something else. Who knows? So knight takes c5, d6, knight d3. What's happening? Why in the previous game it was bishop d3, in this game it was knight d3. A lot of minor pieces wants to humiliate this pawn, like, you're not going in the center, sorry. But for what reason? What's the goal? Let's check next moves to understand that. Knight takes c4, queen e2, queen e7, predictable, and avoiding the pin and supporting this knight. Okay, knight f4. So, if this opening would in the beginner game, in the amateurs game, every trainer would tell something like, what do you do? Your minor piece made 4 moves of 6 in total. So it was knight f3, knight e5, knight d3, knight f4. It's breaking the opening slows. Of course, you need to develop all your pieces. Knight b1, bishop c1. What's happening? Why are you spending so much time to playing this knight? But these rules working only in amateurs games. If you're a top grandmaster, you can break all laws, all rules, and that's totally okay for you. So maybe that's the reason why I want to be a grandmaster, I'm not really sure that I know the main goal of this maneuver, because as for me, knight d5 is a good idea, but black can, prevent it by c6, for example. And what's next? Our knight is good, but 4 moves. 4. So much, I think. But maybe that's why I'm not a grandmaster, only master. Okay, I want to open an engine, to check my attempts about that. Not attempts, guesses. So what engine says? Engine says that this idea is okay, but nobody has an advantage. The position is completely equal, and so show must go on. Okay, c3, preventing knight d4 with a threat of a queen. Okay, and g5. Eighth move of black is g5, and that's interesting because really all opening rules was broken in that game. Firstly by white, after that by black. g5. You know, free rules of the opening. You know, central pawns go straight, minor pieces are developing, king goes to castle. So right now nobody goes to castle. Minor pieces, you know, jumping in the board alone, and g5, you know, it's not a central pawn. So everything goes wrong with the both sides, and I think the both players are totally okay with that. Interesting. We'll look how that game unfolds. So that's one of the most intrigue moments. And let's have a look at the fifth board. What's happening here? Arseniy Nesterov plays white and Ronak Sathwani plays black. Only 5 moves in that position from the initial position, I mean. So it was not Russian game. Thanks a lot. So otherwise it would be very strange, you know, like everybody wants to play the same opening. But no, right now it's a Spanish, so everything is okay. Bishop b5, knight f6, Berlin thing, d3, d6, c3. Well, is very a solid. Combine that very solid variation, very solid situation. You know, the opening theory in that position, it's like 25 moves or 30 moves, so very long thing to learn by heart for participants. But I think it's okay because that's the first round. And you know, first round usually is not very risky because everybody is new here. It's a strong feeling sometimes. Okay, maybe not strong, but feeling of anxiety or other strong emotions because it's the first round, it's the beginning of everything. So really solid openings is very common thing in the first round. Okay. I didn't say earlier, but I want to say it right now. As you see, every game started from 1 hour at clock. So that's a feature of this tournament, the shortest time control. Every participant has only 1 hour in the start of the game, and of course 30 seconds after every move. So that's why we can do 2 rounds per day. And right now, the first round started at 11 a.m. and the second round will start at 4 p.m. So big classical chess tournament will unfold only in 5 days. So 3 days in a row, 1 day for break, and another 2 days. That's why our comments would be very concentrate and quickly, you know. This time control so-called fast classic started in this year. So in the opening ceremony, main arbiter, if I remember right, told that this tournament is 5th in the world with that time control, like fast classic. So that's unusual, and it's interesting to see how it happened. Okay, let's check the board positions one more time, next time, to look at the tweaks. What was adjusted? The first board, Akabian Aram against Galadura Benjamin. So it looked like a Catalan, like book Catalan. So c4, d4, fianchetto bishop on g2, and you know everything like from book. Nothing strange, nothing new, just solid, predictable things. Okay, why not? As for the second board, another g4. Stop. A lot of unusual things happens here, and I showed you bishop f1, and we discussed, this thing that long distance pieces can work totally okay from the initial line, but something interesting happens after that. d4. Okay, control central pawns, control central squares by central pawns. Bishop g4 and h3. Okay, that's understandable. But g4, that's another breaking all chess laws. Because usually we have a right to go our pawns from the king only in the cases when we control the center, when we dominate in the center. But that's not the case. We have a lot of open lines for potential attack to white king. So I'm not so sure that I understand that idea completely. After some seconds, I'll check that with my engine, to be sure that everything is okay. But if I played that position, I would choose something like bishop d3, I don't know. Bishop d3, c3, bishop f4, something neutral. Because, we have a symmetrical pawn structure in the center. We haven't a great advantage in development. No. But why we are playing g4, like opening our king, and the next move c4, opening the center? I don't know really. In my mind, it looks like the opposite plans. The first plan connected with space on the king side, The second plan connected with space in the center. Usually we cannot do that because trades in the center means new opening lines which our opponent can use to attack our king. So I need to open my engine. g4 is the best move. Top engine move is g4. Thank you very much. And the advantage of white is half of a pawn, like plus 0.05. Why it happened like here? g4. What about c4? Top engine move. One more time. But as for me, it looks like white's king is not supported. No? Okay, for example, if black tries to open the lines, knight c3. This position is totally okay for white. Computer thing. If you're amateur, I would not recommend you to do the things like that, to be honest. But technically, everybody has a right to do everything that he wants. Haha, predictable thing, but. Okay, let's go to the next board. I do not understand nothing here. I do not understand something here. That would be more grammarly corrected. Anyway, I lost my train of thoughts, so we are going to have a look at the third board. Wahidov Shamsuddin plays white, Ilyushonok Ilya plays black. That was the solidest, not the solidest, one of two solid openings in the first round. So the first one was here, Catalan opening. Thank you, the chess org is down. No, I don't believe you in that case. But you can enjoy this beautiful picture with girl and this guy from another planet. I don't know, I'm trying to reload. Thank you. Something. We have something. Something is appearing. So, glad to see that. Okay. Sorry for that digression. Let's go back to our chess topic. So, what's happening? French defense, of course, happening. And we discussed that, and I told you that d4 square is the most important thing in all French variations. So right here, white, black, knights is attacking this square from f5, from c6. And looking at the last move, king h1, I have a strong feeling that the next move of white would be g4. Because it looks like a preparation, as for me at least. Before, this g4 move can be not so safe for the white because of knight h4, all the straights, queen on h4. I don't know. Maybe in this position I would prefer g4, straight. But after king h1, we haven't any problems at all because our rook is ready to stay on g file, for example, if we need that. So sounds like a preparation, but I'm not sure because technically right here g4 is totally prepared. You know the difference between this position and the position in the previous game when we played g4 is the center. Usually in the books for amateurs, writers said that, for playing in the side, you need to block the center. That's the easiest rule. And right now, white really block the center and dominate here because they have more space in the center, so they have the right to play g4 without risks. So unlike previous game, as for me, but computer says, as I told you, that everything is okay here. Okay, king h1. In any case, we can go to the next pair because right here it's just a subtle move to prepare. Maybe g4, maybe I'm not right and the idea is different. We'll figure it out after the next white's move. As for the fourth board, that's the end game. After the trade of the queen, okay, g5, we saw that in the previous circle of looking at the board. So queen takes e7, bishop takes e7, and knight returned to e2. That's the fifth move of the knight in the opening. But the position is equal, or at least it looked like that. Pawn in g5 is hanging, so black need to protect that. And king g3, the sixth move of the king. Right now, that's how it called, go round, something like here, 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 and here. No, that's wrong. Arrow e2 and g3. So maybe that's a secret word that this knight tried to tell us. W, maybe something else. Like when some ship was broken, for example, and tourists go to the island and they try to write help in the sand. So that looks like the knight tries to go something similar. Okay, just my strange fantasy, forget about that. Return to the position, everything is okay, the pawn structure is enough harmony for white, for black. So the game is continuing. That's all I wanted to say about the position right now. As for next plans, I think it would be something like bishop d3, short castling. Bishop d7, long castling. And this many pieces endgame would continue. I know that's not very information contained comment, but okay. That's all that I wanted to say about this game right now. And let's have a look at the fifth game. Nestor Farseni plays white. Ronak Sathwani plays black. Spanish opening, as we told. So a6 and bishop a4. If you are a beginner and that's opening, I want to tell you that the main popular maneuver for this bishop is b5, a4, and c2. It looks like that bishop on c2 is stuck, is dubious, but that the illusion. Technically, the main idea of white is bishop c2 and d4 after that. And bishop on c2 is very important piece to control e4 and potentially f5. You can ask me, what for we need f5 square? And I told you, the main popular maneuver, the second main popular maneuver, whatever, for white in Spanish opening is knight d2, knight f1, knight g3, and knight f5. Because f5 square is very useful for the knight. So that's why our bishop on c2 is very important piece. So right now, this position like a book position. Everything is under control for white, for black, and I don't know why Raunak thought for a long time till this moment, because I'm sure that this position isn't new for him. That's a really typical Spanish opening. But sometimes, you prepared before game a lot of time, really a lot of time. I don't know, 4 hours, 5 hours in the day before the game. And when your opponent tries to play something else, some variation that you didn't prepare right today, so you feel like, oh, I need more time, I need to rethink, I need to try to remember all this stuff. So, yeah, sometimes it's strange thing how Grandmaster spend their time in the openings. As you see, a quarter, or less than a quarter, but like a quarter of time of the Grandmasters left, because they had only 1 hour, and in some games it looks like 48 minutes in the clock. That's strange, really. Like 20% of the whole game. Right? My mathematician abilities are not very good, whatever, but I'm trying. I wanna highlight that this time control with a 1 hour at the clock, not 1 hour and a half, is really faster and more interesting to view, I think. Okay, every game with an equal situation, except of the second board, if I'm right. Oh, c5. That's interesting. That's the second board. Lazavik Denis plays white and Grebnev Alexei plays black. So look what happened here. I told you that usually our plans with pushing your pawns in the side connected with stable center. But right now, center is not stable, as you see. So the plan of black is breaking all the center by c5. More trades, more lines, more opportunities for pieces to attack white's king somehow. Black square. I look at the word screen capture is mirroring your screen. Use the icon. Please show my board again. I like to see the chess, it relax me and all this stuff. What the Malevich picture? Black square. Thank you. Please. Computer. Do not play against me. Huh. Right now you see the position. That's enough to be happy. Okay. c5 right here was from black. What he wants to do from me? Allow connection notification. Hello. I allow everything for everybody. So that's my type of communicating. So what else? Help. No. Help, it's early to ask help, but later, maybe. If I play white here, what I would choose next? I don't know. I'm scared of playing that type of position because my king is unsupported. But maybe just knight c3, developing pieces somehow. Bishop f4. I know the rule that if my pawn from the kings push straight, I need to place a minor pieces in their squares. So if I would have some problems in the king side, I can place my bishop on g2 or another bishop on g3, interfering that lines. But looks like scary. I don't know why. Okay, I want to open my engine one more time. And engine says that white has an advantage. A small advantage, like a half of a pawn advantage, but advantage. And this line in the right side of the board show you the same. You know that you have an orange line in the middle of the how it called, file, not file. I don't know how it called. But white side is more than black side. That would mean that white have an advantage. Predictable. And really, knight c3 is a top engine move. Thanks for that. At least I've guessed the best move. C takes d4, for example, that's the first line. Knight takes d5. Oh my god. Knight takes d5, c takes d5. For example, queen takes d5. Ah, bishop. Bishop is hanging, sorry. That variation isn't possible. Cool. Bishop g5 with a counter attack. f6. And all this stuff. But you know, when I did the first moves from computer attempts, it goes to the equal position. So where is our advantage? Maybe the advantage doesn't exist. Who knows? Well, look that. Okay, I'll delete all my variations that I put on the board right now. Delete everything and this position in the game right now. Okay. Looking at the tournament picture from the cameraman from the tournament hall, you see how Benjamin Glazura is thinking. Let's look at his board, to realize what about he's thinking. Please open something for me. I'm a good girl. I have a... Oh, that works. So maybe. I need to tell it regularly, Queen on a4, attacking the double pawn here. Everybody goes from the first board. Looks strange, but technically that's common thing for the Grandmaster tournaments because they have a position in the head, in the brain, in the mind, whatever. So you can go and look at the other boards and continue to analyze that position inside your head. That's the point. Okay, this variation of Catalan opening is popular, as I remember. Knight e5, knight c6 look like a sacrifice, but that's not. That's a really very common thing. I remember that. I've learned that when I was a chess player. Oh, so long time ago. But it was. So bishop c6, b takes c6, knight takes c6. With a knight fork, takes, and e5 finally. Benjamin spent 4 minutes for playing e5. As for this position, where we go away from the popular variation, I think what I think about that. Knight e6 I remember in 100%. Trade here, I remember too. Here, queen a4 looks very natural. Hand wants to do that. So, queen a4, e5. Very fast trade on e5 and queen takes on c4. Okay, this position in the board right now and Benjamin is thinking again. So, what's happening? White has an extra pawn, right? Right. Has black an option to take it back somehow? I don't know. As for compensation for that advantage, I think that's a long diagonal. Fianchetto bishop in the white squares can aim at the white's king in the whole life. Am I right? Am I not right? I think sounds logical. Maybe something else like a5 and bishop a6 with death threats. Because f3 maybe interfere in this diagonal. I'm not sure. Of course, after bishop goes to e6, I wasn't right. As usual. Joke. So, queen is under attack. We want to go somewhere. Queen c2, I don't know. But in my mind, this squares is very weak. And white hasn't a bishop to protect that because they lost the white colored bishop after the trade on c6. And that's a plan for the black, trying to use that, attacking white squares. Sounds logical. Sounds logical. Okay. Right now it's time to Aram, to think what he wanna do that. Okay, let's go to the next board. Maybe it would be more interesting if firstly cameraman goes to the specific board, and after that we'll go into the same board, to discuss the position. Unfortunately, my stream is not the most important here. Russian language commentator tells what kind of board we want to discuss right now, and after that the discussion is continuing. Cameraman went to this specific board, so I'm not the main commentator. Joking. Another time joking. So right now you see the third board. Wahidov Shamsidin plays white, Ilyushan Akalia plays black, and you can write it yourself because every participant has a special thing in the table, introducing himself. And that's comfortable, I think, for everybody here. So, yes, King h1 was a preparation for the next g4 idea. I told you about that, and I was correct finally. Yeah, I guessed something. So, plus for my confidence. g4, 14 this knight goes away from f5, and technically that idea is very, very, very common thing. Of course, every idea has a pros and cons, and let's discuss that. Pros for white are, the main square is d4. We, right now, knight from f5 cannot attack this square. Good thing. Another good thing is the room at the king side. g4, f4, this pawn wants to go straight, maybe f5, maybe with supporting of another pieces somehow, but go straight. And that's comfortable, right? As for cons, our king right now is opened, and that's a fact. If black somehow opens a line, here, there, diagonals, verticals, something, it would be very hard to protect our king. So, everybody needs to be very careful about that situation. After f6, especially. Maybe I need a second to think, because, chess is a room for think. Sounds like a very dangerous position for the both sides. Because center right now is not stable, black wanna broke that somehow. King on h1, short castle in the closest future, I think. d4 pawn is not so protected, so we want to, after queen b6, for example, how we wanna protect that, I don't know. This bishop hasn't any space to go back in any case. Of course, I wanna check engine calculations right now, but my guess, everything is difficult. Like synoptics usually said, clear, not clear, so nothing is clear. The evaluation of the computer is plus 0.5. And the best move for the white g5. I don't know how to work with that. g5, in my mind. But in the other side, of course it's strange. Yeah, that's against our plans with the room on king side and all the stuff, but in the other side, bishop on h4 cannot return. If he plays g5 and our opponent follow with f5 as computer recommend to do, so look at the position. Bishop on h4 in the edge of the board. If we attack it somehow, this bishop would die. Looks like interesting to play something I don't know. I absolutely don't know. But something like bishop a6. No, why not? Why that's so big blunder? That was my idea. What's wrong? Why the evaluation so bad? Okay, I understand right now. But technically, that can be something. But, with more intelligent moves. d5 was played in the game, by the way. d5 was really played by Vahidov Shamsuddin, even without spending more time to calculate that g5 very quickly thing. Or the first board in the tournament was finished with a draw. Right here. Akabian Aram with Galadura Benjamin played bishop e6, bishop f5, and this game ends in free-time repetition. Haha. Interesting thing, in the opening ceremony, main arbiter said that in this tournament we have a Sophie's rules. I'm not sure about the specific name, but the point is the participants cannot speak about the draw before 40 moves. But if you are Grandmaster, ways to avoid this rule, for example, with 3 times repetition. And nobody can say that you broke the rules because, for example, in the situation when my opponent attack my queen, I'm sure that this place is the only possible thing. Who can ask me why I did that? That's my thoughts. So 3 time repetition, it's a way to force a draw if the both participants want to do that. Okay, and right now, after 43 minutes, we have 4 games out of 5. The one game finished. Okay, let's continue our discussion. Yeah, you see the empty board. By the way, this draw was predictable because of the tournament situation. Benjamin and Aram, who played each other, has a logistic troubles yesterday because they flied to Sheremetyevo and from Sheremetyevo to Khanty-Mansiysk. And they have a problem with custody and all this stuff. That's why he planned to be here yesterday. But because of that mess, they went in Khanty-Mansiysk only this morning. And night flights, all this stuff. You haven't time to sleep enough, so they play each other, and that's fair enough. And they made a quick draw, avoiding some risks connected with schedule. But the point is, today they should play another game, the second one, at 4 p.m. As I told before, right now we have 2 rounds, the first one and the second one. So maybe that can be uncomfortable to play the second round in the day when you came after the second flight in a row. Who knows? But technically, let's return to the thought that chess is a sport and you should be brave and stable to win in the tournament. So, okay. Let's go back to the chess stuff. Right here we saw that short castle, and the advantage of white is growing up. Looks like this bishop on h4 is stuck in the edge of the board, and maybe white have some ideas to use that somehow. I every time look at the queen on d1 because I wanna use it somehow to attack. Maybe this stuff, maybe somehow else, maybe with our knight. Who knows? But that's a special thing. Okay, our engine showed us that the evaluation of the situation is like an extra pawn for white because the domination in the center by that pawns because this bishop in the edge of the board. But technically, everything is okay. The number of pieces is continuing to be equal. Okay, let's look at another boards. For example, to force 1. Right here, Lucian Lei plays with Zemlyansky e1. In the endgame with so many pieces, all minor pieces in the board right now and in equal position. So, okay, I want to close the engine, to tell something from myself. What's happening here? In my mind, it looks like white wanna... I'm not sure about that. Recently, I told that white wanna play short castle, but after g5, h5, it looks like they need to adjust their plans and choose a long castling right here. Maybe knight f3, bishop d2, and long castling. Usually, we like to play in that side of the board when we have more space and more pieces. And right now it looks like black has more space in the king side. So that's why I think that it's not very good choice to castle in this side. So everything can change in our non-stable life, and that's okay, especially in chess. But as you see, the position is completely equal because of the symmetrical pawn structure and, solid position. And let's have a look at the fifth game. As you see from the cameraman in the tournament hall, right now Nestor Farseni plays white with Raunak Sathwani, who plays black. d5 was the last move right here, and that looks maybe strange, maybe not. Okay, usually after d5 move, black has a problems with hanging pawn on e5. But right now, where is the problems? For example, takes by the queen, yep, protecting this central square. So, okay. Pawn is protecting, bishop b3 can be in the board, but so next, what's next? I mean, let's think together. Is that okay or not? d5. Usually black plays something like bishop b7, all this stuff, but d5 takes. Maybe I want to play bishop b3, and that's my thought, because right now this diagonal is opened and we have a right to make a first move, attacking this queen. Why not? Let's use an engine, to check how it works. d5, what about d5? Computer doesn't recommend d5 move right now, but the difference between top engine move, rook e8 and d5 is not very big. It's like a so little thing. So we can say that that idea is supported by computer. Okay, d5, but after the trade, the main idea for white right now, as you see with a blue arrow, is knight d2, but I'm interested in trade. Takes, of course, takes with a queen. For example, if I go back with a bishop, so computer says 0.0, everything is okay, absolutely okay, completely okay, for everybody okay. So maybe white have a name, have an aim. That's the difference. Have a name, like name or aim. My case is aim. White has aim at the center e5, but technically d3 pawn is a weakness too. And this is a weakness in a half opened line, half open d file. So after rook d8 from this side or from another side, black would attack that. So we need to return bishop c2, or how it support h3. Bishop f5. I forget about this opportunity from black. Bishop f5, d4. and all these pawns going away from the board. Right now, white has an isolated pawn, by the way, but the room in the center is enough to provide a equal position for them. Okay. So, right now, the first hour of playing is back. Let's make a short break, 10 minutes or something like that. And after that, I return here to continue to show you how our tournament unfolds. Hello again. I'm here and I'm ready to continue to show you how our 23rd tournament of Anatoly Karpov unfolds. So we're in the Khanty-Mansiysk, right now in the first round of the tournament. Everything started just an hour ago, and I want to tell you one more time how it happened. We have a time control, so-called fast classic, means 1 hour in the clock with 30 seconds after every move. Because of short time control, right now we have 2 rounds per every day. So the first round of the tournament has started at 11 a.m. and the second round will start today at 4 p.m. That's the plan. 10 participants, 5 pairs, predictable, and the second hour of playing. Let's look at the board. The first board ended in a draw. I told you about that. So the other 4 boards is continuing. Okay. The second one. Lozovik Denis plays white. Grebnev Alexei plays black. The both participants has a half of an hour in their clocks, and that's why our tournament's so quick. You know, less time, more energy moves. That's why it's so interesting. It's so interesting to look at that. Okay, what we are seeing here right now, the open center. I think that's the first thing. I think that the first thing that we realize when we look at the board, we have no pawns in the center at all. This file's CDE is opened. Usually in that position, our long distance pieces, specifically bishops and rooks, are very strong. So that's why it feels like white has an advantage, because their bishops are more dangerous than black's ones. I don't know, I like that pieces. Of course, after my guess, I wanna check that with an engine, but from the first side it looks like that. The last move is bishop b3. Okay, goes away from the trade, but g4 h3, maybe that's a minus of the position. Opened lines on the king, all this stuff. Really, I don't know how to estimate that. After the trade of queens, it will be an equal situation. Yes. A 90% that I'm true right here. But as for current situation, what we can say about that? I don't know, bishop c5, for example, forcing, kicking this knight out from the line, trying to trade this queen. Equal, or look like that. Or bishop b5 with that ideas. Stop. Maybe I wasn't right about that. For example, something like bishop c5. Just for example, how it works. Here, takes. This idea is not so dangerous. Okay, so I think that's unequal. Let's check the engine evaluation. Engine says that white has an advantage, like an extra pawn. 0.8 right now. So what would be after bishop c5? Knight f3. So, for example, takes. And the situation is 1.4. in white's turn. Why? Knight e5. Computer says that, power of minor pieces is so high that black cannot protect themselves from the attack in the center. I think it requires more deep analysis that I have right now. But I can believe them. Him, it. I can believe it. Right now, we have that situation after bishop b3, going away from the threat. So computer recommends to black plays bishop b4 with a pin. So what's next? By the way, knight b5, that's an idea in different variation, in multiple variation, because c7 is interesting for knight, for bishop, d6 is interesting too. And of course, white needs to growing the initiative. That's why making a threat is a good decision. But technically, we are closing to... we are not closing to the equal position, because that's like an extra pawn. In amateurs level, that's close to extra. Anyway, I want to try the sentence one more time. In the amateurs level, the devaluation is close to equal position, but in grandmasters level, it looks like a chance to win. So, okay, we'll return. Let's go to the third board. What's happening here? Oh, something interesting. I like that. Wahidov Shamsidin plays white. Ilyushanok Ilya plays black. Ilya has 23 minutes in his clock, but I know him. He plays easily, even when he hasn't enough time. Enough time? That's a philosophy thing. You can have small time in the clock, but enough. Okay, f4, f5, f6, g5. We've seen that moment earlier, and we're talking about the bishop in the edge of the board. Short castle, e takes f6, g takes f6, and bishop e3. Let's try to estimate something here, because it's really difficult to do. Looks like, just comparing the sides, looks like white king in more safe place, in safer place that black's one, because right now g file is potentially dangerous and rook is ready to stay here. Okay, as for specific variations, for example, takes is impossible because of the pin on g file and attacking this pinned piece with a pawn, for example. That, of course, one of the winning variations, but it exists and that's enough. So that's why this pawn on g5 isn't hanging, and bishop cannot go away from the edge of the board. Black need to do something else. What can they do right now? I don't know. That typical idea isn't working because square is, prohibited. What else? Idea of white is something connected with attacking this bishop. I'm not sure. I know that we have a lot of ideas, but my eyes magneted with this piece here. As for computer thing, I want to check that, what computer says. Bishop e8 and f5 and knight e7. Knight e7. That's a chance to protect this bishop one more time. That's the point. I thought, why black avoiding this trade? After that, this pawn chain is eternal, But technically, this bishop stays alive after knight e7, g6. Staying alive. That's the case. Okay, we got that. So that's why the situation is better for white, but not winning. right now. Okay, got that, got that. But technically it's easier to play by white because they have more room in the center, g-file for the rook, potentially a weak piece in the edge of the board, and a lot of small details. Okay, okay. So the advantage. That's the final note, and let's have a look at the force board, just for diversity in our stream. So Lucian Lei plays white with Zemlansky, one who plays black. Predictable. Another endgame with a lot of minor pieces. The whole collection. So what's happening here? You know, my guess was completely wrong. Maybe you remember, maybe you're not, that's your right. But my previous time that I analyzed that position, I said that in my mind, I think that white should castle long. Because usually we likes to play in the side of the board when we have more room and more pieces. But technically, it was opposite way. Completely opposite way. Because white's king goes to f1 and black king stays on the long castle. Got that, got that. Okay. That's one of my skill, come to terms that I was wrong, and yep. So what next? Firstly, I want to tell you that king f1 wasn't voluntarily idea. Technically, it was a necessity right now because of maybe not. I opened a how it called engine, and engine said that everything is okay with the short castle, as you see. After the short castle, the evaluation is like an extra pawn in white's turn. But after king f1, something similar, by the way, not so far from previous estimation, so like 0.7, not so far. Maybe the idea of keeping this rook on h1, technically not maybe, that's a fact, that the idea of keeping the rook on the corner of the board is playing h3. So it looks like Lucian Lei think that his rook would be more useful in the corner because of potentially opened h-file. So that's why he keep this rook here. Looks strange, that's true, but why not? The fun fact? The top engine move right here is h4. Let's discuss that. Because previously I told that we need to open h-file. Otherwise, for what? We have a rook here. But technically h4, just h4. And our rook making a very good job. She protects the pawn from the bishop. Or what's happened? Okay, we blocked h5. h5 pawn is a weakness. I agree with that with 100%. But do you feel pity for that piece? I do. Okay, knight e4. Takes, and in some variations takes here. But what would be in variation if black doing nothing? Just nothing, I don't know. a6, whatever. That's the idea. Like bishop g5, takes and takes. That's why this weakness on h5 so weak. So weak. Weakness is weak. Very interesting information, right? Bishop h6 was in the game. Okay. What about h3? h4? The sacrifice of a pawn. And so what? Why we are here? Okay. If I just going away at my home and I want to open my rook, as very straightforward chess player, knight e4 with a pin and everything good for black. I believe computer. I believe computers. It's not a... I'm not arguing at all. I'm just trying to understand how it works. But maybe really after h3, sorry, after h3, black turns the tables and take an initiative for themselves. Maybe. Sometimes it's hard to understand the specific moments. But yes, when computer showed me the variations, I completely realized that h4 is more interesting because the idea with h4 from the black is prohibited. Impossible. So we block this pawn, we want to take it, and after the trade, our rook... What would be after the trade? Tell me. Trade, no, right now everything is okay. Because our knight keep staying on g3, protecting f5. Unlike previous variation. Poo. Okay. White plays bishop h6. Black plays rook d6. And computer asks white, for what reason whatever, this bishop on h6 is not very useful in computer mind. And he told that white need to return, and that's all. Okay, we can return to that game too, but right now I think we discussed everything that we need here. Let's go to the fifth game. Fifth pair, fifth board. Please open. Thank you. I won the computer one more time. So we have a fight for all the time. I said him like, open. He said, no. I said, open, please. He said, if you want to. The fifth board. Nestor Farseni plays white. Ronak Sathwani plays black. And the pawn structure keeps from the previous trade on d5. We discussed that. Of course, we discussed everything. That's how it works. But I want to tell that again. So right now, computer doesn't like this trade after d5. But the situation is equal. The point is, black has a weakness, is a lighted pawn on e5. White has a weakness, an isolated pawn, not isolated technically, but not good pawn on d3. So that's why the main computer idea is, in some variations, plays d4, trading these pawns and, having more space, for example, for the knight on c3. But technically, pawn structure is very stable in that variation. But in this game, situation unfolds another kind of maneuvers. So as you see, white knight came to e3. Not came, but he wanna come to e3. That's very Spanish ideas. But after the trade on d5, I'm not sure that everything is working like usual. Because, returning to the typical Spanish pawn structure. Here, of course, f5 square is very interesting for the knights. As I told before, knight wants to go here, attacking the short castle, attacking g7, with provocation of g6, because after that h6 became my weaknesses. Okay, f5 is supported square for the knight. But after d5, our pawn goes away. So I'm not understand why our knight wants to go here with so much inspiration. If knight has an inspiration, of course. So knight e3, doubled pawns on a file, but the advantage of double bishops. Okay, typical situation. Not this situation. Short notice. This situation is not very typical, but usually in Spanish, white has a double bishops. Not in the opposite. Black has a double bishops, but black has a doubled pawns. So that's right now we have a castle. White has a advantage of double bishops and problems with a double pawns. So that's a big difference between them. For bishop that's good, for pawn that's bad. So these pros and cons, when we combine that, we have an equal situation. I think so, at least. We'll check, of course. But all the pawns is supported enough. This knight has a good chances in future, maybe f5, I don't know. g4 is interesting too, because e5 pawn can be protected only with f6, and we can use f4, for example, to open this file for the rook. I don't know. Maybe I like the white's position more than black's position right here, because white's plans are easier to find in the game. Let's check with engine. I'm sure that engine says that, like, no, everything is equal, all this stuff. But as for me, I like white's position more. Of course. No, by the way, a half of a pawn. A half of a pawn is not really equal. It's just a, hint to have an advantage. Knight f5. Knight f5 with a threat of a bishop. Okay. f4. I like f4 move because we're avoiding of our doubled pawns, and that's make our position, our pawn structure more healthy, if we can say that according to pawn structures. Why not? We can say everything. Freedom in this chess world, freedom of speaking. Okay, I close my engine, but don't close my eyes. As for time troubles, by the way, in the third board, as you can see in camera from the tournament hall right now, Ilya Lishonok is continuing to thinking. And that's becoming, not, and the situation becomes dangerous, more dangerous with every minute. Because right now he has only 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Of course, he got used to play with not enough time in the clock. Him, that's a style, but technically, the situation of white right now more comfortable a lot of times. We discussed that before. Yeah, this particular position was in our screen, and we discussed that white has a domination in the center, potentially g file for the rook, bishop on the edge of the board. I don't know. e6 is a witness, and this pawn blocked their own bishop. Black has a lot of troubles right here. Positional troubles, time troubles. I don't know about psychological troubles, but as for me, if I played this, I would have a psychological troubles. Okay, joking. Of course, we cannot say like that. So the odds are white wins. But we'll see. We'll see. Our life show us everything. As for the force board, I mean. The fun fact that right now, if you believe the computer, but usually we believe him, 4 boards of 5 with a white's advantage. So every evaluation, how it called? Every evaluation things show us that white's more than black. Poo. Okay. Anyway, let's return to the situation. So much pieces in the king's side that everything is ununderstandable, but I believe in my skills to analyze the position. Or not believe. By the way, that looks like a first step to the tactics. Discovered attack. Okay, we haven't enough squares to, to go in a way with this knight, and in this situation, we really hasn't good options. For example, if you sacrifice your knight, of course, your opponent will have an advantage, because he has bishop and knight against a rook. Right now, 2 pieces better than 1, and that's typical thing. So that's why white plays rook e1. Right now it was a threat with, for example, check, takes with an extra material. So e1 goes away with his rook on g8, avoiding a discovered attack. So very wise from him. And. Maybe I need a small pause, to analyze what's happening. Because too much pieces in the one side of the board. Hard to understand something. What about our idea with h-pawn? I have only one question. Okay, f5 square for the knight. Okay, these bishops. Okay, but right now situation looks like equal because nobody has a lines or squares to attack. Or have... Let's calculate. We are here for calculate, so let's try to do that. For example, rook g7, just, to check the ideas, and knight f5. After the trade here, white will have a double bishop's advantage. That's why what? For example, sounds very dangerous for black. But it's so much tactical opportunities that I'm not sure that my ideas are okay. Because, you need to calculate so much things. But my analyze is really how it called. What it called. Not how. What it called. Surface level of analyze. Yep, I remembered that. So with surface level of analyze, you cannot say something about the tactical situation. But I'm a wise girl. I wanna open my engine one more time because they are grandmasters. I am not. After rook g7, for example, it would be knight f5. So I guessed it correct. Knight gh7, for example, and h4 finally. But why not h3? I thought that right now we haven't an idea with attacking an h5 pawn and we need to open an h5 for the rook. Why not h3? That would be logical, but wouldn't. Knight e4. So what? Maybe opening an h-file is more useful for the black because black has a double attack here. Oh, double attack, not double attack, double rook. Black has a double rook here on the h-file. And right now we opened a file technically for them, not for us. Maybe. That's another logical thing, that if we're opening a file, some file, we need to check. Every file is a lift. From us to him, from us to them, or from them to us, that depends. So trading pawns, think about that. Who will use this lift? You or your opponent? And if your opponent, maybe that's better to not open a lift. Okay, wisdom from Dasha, that's our style. But what about the situation in the game? Nothing special. Rook goes to f8, avoiding all tactics. Of course, white has a right to place on f5 with a knight. And really, white has a pressure to black. Their minor pieces are more active, more initiative and all this stuff. But technically, black's position is solid enough. They haven't really weaknesses. They haven't really problematic pieces. Everything is under control. So I think this game would be the longest in the first round. Let's check my extrasensorical abilities. Would I imagine or not? Who knows? Who knows? As for fifth board, what's happening here? Please open for me something. Please, I beg you, open. Magic? Hoppa! Extrasensorical abilities, as I told you before. So, be scared of me. The fifth board. Nestor Forseni plays white, and Sathwani Raunak plays black. Spanish structures with bishop on c2. We discussed it before, all of these pawns are weaknesses, but who cares? We have a pieces. a4 typical idea here. Because we wanna ask our opponent what he want to do, and in general, this pawn, how it called? Pressure, not pressure. I lost my words, you know. Resistance? No, not resistance. Okay, it can be pressure. So, pressure between two pawns in white's favor. Because white has a right to take every move that they want to. Black hasn't that right. Never. Black has that right. Okay, from that moment I start to explain everything with the gestures. So, white has a right to take on b5 because their structure keeping okay. Black hasn't right to take here because they have an isolated pawn after this trade. That's why there's pressure between pawns in white's favor. Okay, you understood that? So that's why we can move on. Computer recommends to black plays bishop g5. Let's check it out. So, attacking knight. That doesn't mean that black wants to take that knight, of course. That means that after every move of knight, it would be trade here. And white lost the advantage of double bishop thing. I didn't tell you about that. I thought you know. But in any case, the advantage of two bishop, of double bishop, of two bishop in the board mean that the team consisted of two bishops is better than a team consisted of bishop and knight or two knights, because bishops are very harmonic thing. One bishop controls white squares, another black, predictable. So that's why they like each other. And when one side has two bishops and another side hasn't, you know, that's an advantage. Anyway, right now after a4, Ronak Sathwani is thinking. So that's a computer idea, but I think everything goes to the equal. For example, if black plays something like rook d8, it would be... No, it wouldn't. Why? a5 and what? For example, go into the center. Takes. Why so big advantage here? I do not understand. d4. So what? Give me an explanation, please. Why are we sacrificing our pawn? Why is the advantage, as you see in the right side of the board, like so big? What's happening? I wanna take this pawn. Where is the tactic? This one. Oh, sorry. I didn't see a skewer before, but right now, yep, I realized all this stuff. So bishop e4 is a real trouble, I think, yes, after taking. Yes. That's why the whole situation is not so good for black. Okay. So we needed to know that from here. And after the f5, a5, d5 is prohibited, right? a4 looks very strange. As for c8, for example, f4. What's the difference? After bishop g5, why I cannot do the same idea here? The same a5. d5. Oh, d7, sorry. I do not understand. Okay, I'm just trying to compare this variation to find the difference. Why not knight d7 right now? Attacking. Okay, bishop goes away. What's next? f4. By the way, f4 is a planning idea to avoiding our doubled pawns. You know, if we trade one of the pawns, the another one would be enough, would be healthy enough. So that's why bishop d7, that's a plan against f4. Right now it's became easier to understand. Thank you, we realize that. And it makes me happier. Close an engine. I wanna close everything and try to use my brain. So my milliard of years evolution uh, gave me that brain. So maybe for use it, I don't know, but sounds like that. The third board. Ilya has 4 minutes when... Oh, what's happening here? Let's return. Okay. Our previous analysis was about that position after the bishop f3. So Ilya spent 30 minutes right here and played f takes g5. You know, according to fact that we have 1 hour for the whole game, spending 30 minutes for one move, it's a very risky decision. Let's look. Takes knight e7. We spoke about we discussed knight e7. You know that move. That's helping. Whatever. Protection for the bishop in the edge of the board. Somebody should protect him. Otherwise, this bishop would die. So sad story. The bishop d3. Preparing to take that knight. And that variation takes e5. Oh my god. Let's analyze, of course. Let's analyze. So, what I want to say, queen f3 was a threat. That's why e5, that's a protection from the queen h3 attacking bishop. Right? You know, without an engine, I feel like I said something stupid. But who cares? All of us are human beings. All of us sometimes speak something stupid. That's a part of human life, and we need to have enough power to accept that. Okay. Philosophy thesis in my stream is a typical thing. Correct. So, e5. Trades in the center. Sacrifice of the next pawn. Preventing queen h3. What else? My thought that white need just to take it. I think that d takes e5 is enough to have an advantage. d4 isn't... Stop. Forget it, d4 is working. Because takes, discovered attacks with a check, and everybody dies. Okay, so no. White hasn't right to take on a5, especially right now when I didn't check it with my engine. So what they should do? Wahidov Shamsuddin is thinking in right moment too. He wants to know the answer of this question too. Okay. Attacking bishop by somehow. No. We haven't this option. What else? Oh, guys. What about bishop takes h7? I'm not certain at all. But that's interesting. Takes. Queen f7. Goes away. And something should be here. Maybe g7? What about g7? What do you think about g7? G6, sorry. With a threat of a checkmate, queen g8 is prohibited because... Stop. No. That's enough. Because knight isn't hanging. Maybe something else here. Stop. Sure. We have a check. So... my guess that right now bishop d3 is enough. Bishop takes h7 is enough, and I wanted to open my engine. Yeah, I was right about that. So maybe maybe in my mind I'm a chess grandmaster too. So, yeah, the whole variation is correct. I felt that. I felt that something should be here. And queen h5 is the right option. I'm so good. I'm so brilliant. I'm so perfect. And it wasn't a game. Yep. Right now the evaluation is very huge. The whole position, computer evaluates the whole position like a plus 3.5. So that means that wine from another menu. That means that white wins that game. That's what I said. Okay. Everything is understandable. The first round, time of strong emotions, time of what it called. When I was young and I was at chess tournament, my trainers always told me that the first day and second day it's time for acclimatization. Acclimatization, got used to climate, schedule, places, atmosphere, all this stuff. So that's why usually the first day and the second are strange. The final day is strange usually because of emotions one more time, because the final day show us who would be the champion. But the fun fact that the whole tournament right now consists of 5 days. So that's why first days for acclimatization, final days for emotions, and the middle of the days with a break. So right now, the whole tournament is like a concentration of emotions and, impulse decisions and all this stuff. I like that as a commentator. As a human, I know how hard it happens sometimes. Okay, the second board. Lazavik Denis plays with Grebnev Alexei. That's a position with open center and h3, g4. We discussed that somewhere here. Yes. And I told you that usually white can play pushes like that with a stable center. But right now is something strange. And I felt it like black has chances for counterattack. Maybe not really now, but after some moves, a lot of open files. That it feels like uncomfortable for the white, because they need to control everything, and black king is protected by the pieces. So we haven't white hasn't really opportunities to use that g4 move. Of course, room and the king side, but technically for what? That's why, in my mind, after 5 next moves or something like that, black can start a counterattack. I'm not certain where and how. Maybe h5, maybe not, maybe rook on d8, maybe not, maybe somehow else. But the whole situation is dangerous for the white. Let's check with engine, of course. But I felt like that. No. As you see, engine didn't agree with me, doesn't agree with me completely, because he showed that right now white has an advantage, like a half of a pawn, everything is okay, and black should trade the queens. Really? Nothing else? For example, just wanna check. h5. Why not? Takes, and what's so bad for the black? Knight ce4. With a fork. But opened king, no? That's not important for everybody. The evaluation right now is very huge, like 3 pawns in white's favor. Okay, computer thing, not human thing. In other side, all white's pieces are working. These rooks are doing something. Black rook isn't. So maybe that's why everything is working so good. In any case, computer says that everything is under control for the white. As for me, no. But technically, I'm not a part of the tournament. I'm a commentator. I'm not a participant, so they know much, 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 much more than me. So that's why we need to believe them. They know what to do. Okay, as for the third board, we discussed that the situation got worse and worse for the black. After queen h5, it was the second check. Maybe the check is required for the, forced check from the rook. Why not? If you have an option to develop your next piece, can do that. I think after that, it would be a queen h4 in any case. So I think a lot of opportunities to finish the game here for Wahidov Shamsuddin. Check, check, maybe here. Check, maybe I'm not sure about the specific variations, but I feel that my intuition tells me maybe все-таки the Russian word in English speech, thank you. Rook f1 looks very logical. Knight f5 looks very logical too. And for example, in the end, taking this pawn is hanging. No, not. This pawn isn't hanging, but that's enough, to continue the attack. For example, with queen h7, pushing the pawn g straight. What else? Attacking this pinned piece by some resources. So why not? What the evaluation here? The evaluation here. Show me, please. Wow! In my imaginary variation, the evaluation is plus 0.2. So technically that's an equal position. In my mind, the situation is winning for the white, but as for my mind, I didn't believe him from that moment. Okay, rook f1 was in the game, but after knight f5, we cannot take this bishop. Why? What's the difference? For example, I wanted that. That's a threat. Okay, going away. Queen c7, everything is okay. But if we made a check firstly, and king a8, so what? Okay, I'll understand. One more attempt. Check. Going away. Check going away. Check. Where is the end of the variation? Just the trade of everything, and after that returning to take this bishop. Am I right? So in any direction of the king, we have a return with a double attack and have a extra material in the end. Maybe. Okay, sounds really logical. Why not? As for other boards. In the fourth board, Lucian Lei is continuing to taking a pressure on Ivan Zemlyansky. So every minor pieces concentrated on the king side, and this, position of black king or black pieces show us that something goes wrong for the black. In any case, let's make a break for 10 minutes as usual, and after the break I'll continue the discussion about opportunities in the first round of Karpov International Chess Tournament. But right now, time to break. We are on air. If you just join us, I'll tell you one more time. My name is Dasha. We are in the 23rd Karpov International Chess Tournament. Right now is the first round of the tournament, so 2 hours ago the whole tournament has started. So 2 hours left. This tournament has so-called format of fast classic, means that every participant has only 1 hour in the start of the game. Not 1 hour and a half, just 1 hour. So that's why the round goes quicker than we got used to. And after 2 hours, time control goes to the end. As you see, for example, in that board in the first one, right now white has only 3 minutes, black has 18. So not so much, right? It means that this hour in 90% will be the last one in the first round. Everything will change, not will change, not will solve. What's verb I need to use right now to show you that we'll see the result of the round right now. So, okay, let's analyze the main, not the main. You know, the third board goes to the end because, as I see, the advantage of white is huge, enormous, very big. If my board will open, I'll show you too. Because I see you not. That's unfair, I think. Please. Website, I like you. Please show me something. Thank you. What's happening here? Wahidov Shamsidin plays with Ilya Ilyushonak, and right now Shamsidin has 3 extra pawns in the endgame. Of course, we know that endgame with opposite colored bishops, like white colored and black, in the opposite black colored and white colored bishops, this bishop usually, oh, not this bishop, this endgame usually called like drawish one, but 3 extra pawns is too much to be drawish. Free. So much. So that's why the odds are game will finish after, don't know, 10 minutes. This pawn is promoted one, these two. So everything is okay. I think bishop goes to d4, maybe to c3 to be protected. And after that, rook goes f4. A lot of ways to realize this position, capitalize this position. I think that's not a very good, not a very interesting thing to discuss that, because 3 extra pawns in Grandmaster's level is, you know, decisive. As for the second board, I like that pauses between, you know, pushing a button and something downloaded. So that's a long theater pauses to feel the importance of moment, you know, feel the whole thing. Don't listen, just feel. That's enough. So what's happening here? Lazavik Denis plays with Grebnev Alexei. The number of material is equal. Thanks a lot. What else? Knight on d6 looks crazy. Not crazy. Brave. Knight is protected. Knight's attacking here. Bishops for white are good. As for the last move, it was h6 with attacking this knight, so we need to do something. What can we do? f3 is prohibited, so e4 is only move, am I right? Or knight f7? Knight f7 or knight e4? That's a question, like from Hamlet, but from Denis. Well, knight f7. Knight f7, bishop f7, knight f7, rook f7. That spin is very dangerous, but right now, let's check a check. Sounds fun, right? Check. King should protect his rook, so bishop f8. King, knight f8, no. Forget about that. Knight f8 is enough because of discovered attack. What else can we do here? For example, if we decide to take on f7 finally. I do not see how to continue our attack. So maybe that's why Lazarek Denis has chose the variation with knight e4. Just going back. I want to check that with my engine. Engine says something can be here, but with another knight. Not this knight under attack, but that one. After takes? No, that's the same. Takes. I have opponent's advantage, so what next? Rook c1? I don't know. but sounds like, choosing that way, arbiters would check you to using the devices, because it's really unhumanable. Knight g e4 is very logical thing. So going back, protecting our knight on d6, attacking bishop on c5, like everything is solid, everything is calm. Okay, takes, knight c5, and rook c1 here. But that's not a support, not support. This move didn't pretend. I forget all words. That's my pain. This move didn't prevent the trade on b3 because the threat of black is more dangerous. That's why white should double the pawn. And it was in the game, yeah. As you see in the camera from cameraman in the tournament hall, really, Alexei took on b3 and his opponent took back. So right now we have the situation. And that's a question where Alexei want to put his queen. For example, computer says that queen f3, technically absolutely okay. Maybe queen d7 is okay too. But the situation is equal. As you see, 0.0, nobody has an advantage. 0.0, just like in a museum. Okay, close my engine, close. Try to use my brain sometimes. In any case, I would degenerate. That's dangerous. Here, 3 extra pawns. We have already seen that. It's enough. What about the last board, the 5th one? Really, last time we didn't check it. And something have changed. Nestor Farseni plays white, Satvani Raunak plays black. What we do? What everybody does, whatever. We should figure it out. So, that's the endgame with a strange pawn structure with weakness on d3 and weakness on e5. But we... No, we are here. I told you about this pawn pressure, that I told that white can take in every move. Black cannot take it back on a4 because of isolated pawn in the end of the variation. So that's why this pawn pressure in white's favor. So in the game, a takes b5, a takes b5, knight goes to f5 with the next threat of having a next bishop, taking a next bishop. Yeah. You remember that stuff, maybe. We discussed why bishop g5 is better right here. Preventing f4 and preparing for bishop trade. So, takes. That's the name of application of Magnus Carlsen. That's not our topic, but by the way, takes sounds good in any case. Knight d5. Knight bishop c5. Attacking. Rook a6, the next threat. Rook a6. The idea, potentially, of discovered attack with knight d4. I'm not sure about that, but sounds like in this situation, if we can imagine that that black's turn, for example, I don't know, h3, black can play knight d4 with a tactic because of discovered attack. For example, take, attacking of king. If he goes here, or black has a extra something, or whatever. It wasn't in the game, of course, because Grandmaster's playing is just my imaginary works eternal. So it was rook a1 to protect this piece, and another threat. Sacrifice, but another next threat. What's happening, guys? So hard tactic. So easy to understand why white has 4 minutes here and black has 6 minutes here, because it looks like attacking here, attacking there, attacking everything. Everything is under attack. And we remember that right now black hasn't a luft um, near the king. Yeah, I remembered all the words. I'm so good, so good. So black hasn't a luft near the king. White technically hasn't a luft because knight closed. We have two rooks from the both sides, and it gives the whole tactical ideas more deadly. Okay, for example, just for example, takes, not here, but who knows? Takes. And in the end of the operation, we have an equal number of material. But of course, I don't know how to choose, the right variation to calculate. So that's why we open our engine. Universally decision for that type of questions. The evaluation in white's favor, but only one pawn. And as you see, the top engine move right now is rook a5. Attacking b5, attacking e6, and attacking maybe something else. For example, rook c6, that's the only move to keep this rook alive. Yep, nope. Rook a7. Arseny in the game plays rook a7. What's the difference? Maybe the difference that after rook c6, this pawn is protected, but this pawn is unprotected. Of course, I'm trying to explain, the engine thoughts, that they are not mine. So I'm not pretending to be cleverer than participant. That would be very strange and unlogical. But technically, this moment about pawns with c7 and b7, I can explain to you. After rook c6, we have problems with d3 pawn, and we cannot solve it. Because after d4, it will be takes, and what? And equal situation. Rook e8. So, equality. I don't know why, don't ask. I think this pawn structure is not very good, but technically, activity of white pieces is enough compensation. Rook c6 was played in the game. I see the hand of Arseny. What would be? No, he decided not to play quickly. Okay. We are waiting. What's happening next? No, he decided to think more. He has only 2 minutes. He hasn't time to think more. Sounds like I'm pressuring him, right? No, absolutely not. Maybe a bit of. Okay, next board. If you don't want to show us the move, we can change it. What about the fourth board? When the Chinese Grandmaster Lushan Lei plays with Ivan Zemlyansky, Russian Grandmaster. Very young and very strong. This game completely looks like a draw. I don't know what do you think about that, but I think that's a draw because the number of material is completely equal. The pawn structure is enough solid for the both sides. Nobody has weaknesses. This g3 pawn protected enough times, and it's easy to protect it one more time. So look like draw. As for the third board, just checking in a row, Shamsuddin Vahidov plays with Ilya Ilyushonak. 3 extra pawns was here, and right now the evaluation keeping on the huge numbers like plus 3.8. That's too much, to be honest, really very much. So bishop goes to g5 to stay on f6, protecting everything, plays g7, and one more square to promote this pawn. So very close to the final rank. Black hasn't enough resources to protect everything. But, in this world, we every time has a chance to miracle. Who knows? That's opposite colored bishops. But technically, the chances are too small for the black. It's predictable too. By the way, that's a double attack, right? To the bishop, to the pawn, and computer recommends to play g7, sacrificing bishop, but after that e7. E7, that's interfering, and black hasn't an option to prevent promotion a pawn. Okay, got that. Everything is clear here. Let's go to the second board. Lazovic Denis against Grebnev Alexei. You see the equal? I saw the equal. This plank in the middle of the board, so 0.0. But why? Because that's a free time repetition. Rook c5 attacking a queen. Queen has only one option to keep the position equal, because after queen e6, it would be a trade with an isolated pawn in the end, and rook c7. Who wants that? Nobody. So queen d1, and this knight is under attack. That's why the situation is repetitive. Boom, boom, boom. The point is that white need to write down this move into the blank, into the paper, and ask an arbiter to to show him that after that move, it would be 3 times repetition. That's an order how to game finished with 3 times repetition. But who cares? This game ended in draw. Fourth board, you can see in the camera from the tournament hall right now, looks like a draw, the third draw in a row. Trade on d6 gives us an end game without weaknesses, without files which anybody can use for plans. Absolutely calm position. They have 30 moves in the board right now, so I'm certain, or kind of certain, that they made next 9 moves. After that, somebody offer a draw, and the other side would accept that offer. Everything goes to that result. As for the third board, this endgame was finished not exactly. G7 with a threat of e6, bishop e6 avoiding that, and h4 protecting the bishop. After that, Ilya Ilyushonak resigned, and this game finished with a victory of Vahidov Shamsidin. So that's the first victory in that tournament, so congratulations for him. He is a winner of Olympiada in some year, so he's very strong. We know that. Okay, by the way, today we have 2 rounds, not only one, but the second round will be at 4 p.m., as I said before. So everybody has a chance to replay, revanche. No, revanche? Whatever, you understand what I wanted to say. So right now we've got 2 games out of 5. The 4th board and the 5th one. As for the 4th board, everything goes to draw, as I said, like king g2. I'm not sure that that's a big plan, to open an f file for the rook, and we need to do that. I think that's an offer to 3 times repetition or something like that. Like, you goes away, I goes ahead. But of course, we cannot know it in 100%. That's only a thought. Maybe I'm absolutely wrong, and that game would unfold for 200 moves with a lot of brilliant ideas. Who knows? But right now it looks like a draw. And as for the 5th board, right now this board is the most interesting for us, right? Arseny has 1 minute 20 seconds. Ronak has 2 minutes. A lot of tactical ideas in the positions. So a lot of structural problems for the both sides. And that's interesting. as for the last moves, where we are, how we went here. So rook c6, protecting pawn and attacking a bishop, bishop a3, attacking a knight. Why not knight d3? That's a question, of course, but maybe some, I don't know, tactical thoughts, like that's very dangerous. Computer, by the way, says that it's very dangerous. For example, knight f4, takes, takes, knight b7 goes away, and knight b5, and like everything is completely okay for white. 2 extra pawns in white's favor. So maybe that's the reason why in the game was king f8, you know, preventing back rank mates, trying to control this rook in some cases of problem. But rook b7 in any case, absolutely. Attacking here, preparing for, I don't know, double rooks on the 7th rank. It can be possible, why not? For example, taking on d3, rook d1, rook d1. Rook came here with a pin in every minute of operation. What it was in the game? It was a force board. I just confused with boards. d4, so I was wrong. Let's return to the force board. Was I wrong about drawish situation? c5. As you see, really, king g2 was important to open a file for the rook. Maybe that's about my character. That it's like calm thing, drawish thing, all this stuff. But top grandmasters are usually, you know, aggressive guys who wanna win every game. Everything is okay. Everything is okay. So that's why they are looking for chances in any position, even in the drawest one. So. Rook came to f4, and by the way, the engine is completely agree that white has a right to looking for chances, because the evaluation is 0.4 in white's favor. I don't know why. Maybe that's connected to h5 pawn. I'm not sure. That's just my thought. But technically, that's a pawn blocked into the white square. So into the far end game, after some moves, white has an ideas connected with attacking this pawn. For example, rook e5, maybe bishop e2, or something like that. So a lot of trades can help them to realize that, not realize, can help them to do that. That's more correct. Okay, rook g4. Black wants to Black wants to throw out their weakness after trade-off. Takes, h takes, g4, and after that this pawn became healthy pawn. That's why white don't want to take here. Another predictable thing. Rook ef1, for example, takes, c4, and b5. And I haven't a maneuver to attack this pawn one more time, right? Interesting offer from the engine. Okay. I can believe in that. So what will be next? By the way, rook f1 was in the game. Really, Lucian Lei plays like that. Yeah. Okay. As for the fifth board, I'm interested in fifth board too, because that's my gestures, of course, are enough, you know, to show you everything that I want to explain. But technically, sometimes I need to use words. You know, we have a Russian language commentator, English language commentator, and maybe in some cases I'm a gesture language commentator. Okay. So the situation is changed. Arseny plays with Ronak. Arseny had an advantage. Right now, his advantage became smaller. But he kept an advantage. That's the point. It was a lot of trades here. Rook a6, takes. Bishop c4 with a threat of a discovered attack, takes. And right now, the both participants has a 1 minute in their clock. Technically, Arseny has a less than 1 minute. 30 seconds in the clock. So bishop b7 looks logical because we're attacking a knight, we're attacking a c7 pawn. What else? Knight c5, something like that. And knight e6. Why the advantage is so small? As for me, you know, that's a chain of a pawn. The both pawns are, you know, they are ready to go into their queens, straight and confident. Why the advantage, like one pawn invites favor? I don't know. If we're using a human mind, for example, mind, it looks like white has a better advantage than one pawn. Knight d7, interfere in the 7th rank, but avoiding a trade. Okay. King f1 sounds logical. Going closer to the center, you know, protecting pawns from this side. Okay. Knight from e5 will protect this square enough, so we haven't reason to continue that ideas. King g2, Arseny played king g2, because in English language, you know, the sequence order is really, the sequence of words is really important. So king g4, g2, for example, knight e5, knight goes to e5 according to previous moves, so that's not something new or unpredictable. Right now, the point is how to promote b and c pawns for the white. Pawns are absolutely healthy, so they are ready to play b4, b5, c4, c5. I don't know why the evaluation is not more touchable. Where is the counterattack? g6, okay, I can believe that. So where is the counterattack? Rook a8. Right now, of course, black has a 4 pawns against 3, but that's impossible to, you know, create a promoted pawn here. 4 pawns and f-file. I don't know why. Where white can have a problem potentially. I do not see it potentially, even potentially. Okay, but at least we have a fact that white has an advantage, right? Bishop a6 was played and rook d2. After the check, it would be a trade or a pin. It seems like after bishop. Check, bishop d8, it was in the game, yeah, completely. What next? Knight d4 isn't working, right, because of king e7. So it feels like a tactical opportunity. But as for specific variations, I cannot find it right now. A computer cannot b4. Just going to the direction of the opposite rank. g6, knight d4. I see the moves earlier than lichess see that as you, because we have a cameraman in the tournament hall. And that's interesting to see, you know, see the situation from different sides, from real life and from lichess life. Okay. King e7. It was in the game because it's the only move who protects this bishop. Predictable thing too. So what we can do next? I vote for b5, continuing the idea. But a computer says that that's a very bad move, which lost all of our advantage after bishop b6. Right now 0.0. This Knight has a great problems because knight cannot go away because of f2 problems. Poo, poo, poo. How easy you can lost everything that you earned before. That's scary. But as classic says, chess is a tragedy of one move or one tempo. It depends. Okay. Arseny has 40 seconds and he plays what? He made a check, right? Knight c6 with a check. Computer says that something goes wrong. Because right now we had a forcing trade over rooks. And finally, in the bishop with opposite colored. Finally, in the endgame, with an opposite colored bishops, the odds are drawish. Poo poo poo. With a rook, of course, everything can happen. For example, after rook c2, the evaluation is the same, with one pawn in white's favor. But after trading rooks, the end. So, very sad story of losing the whole advantage in the one move, in the one check. We'll return here. And who knows how it will unfold. Technically, I want to check the force board. So right now, Lucian Lei plays with Lubyansky 1. And some moves ago, I told you that it likes drawish thing, but not so easy. Because h5 pawn blocked at the white color square. That's why this pawn in danger, and bishop with a rook every time wanna attack her. For example, bishop e2. So what next? Bishop d7, rook f4, a4. Computer gives black the equal evaluation because of counterattack. But that's a counterattack easy for him. For humans, I'm not sure. Takes. White has an extra pawn. For example, bishop f5. Just ignoring all the threats. I'm sorry, but that's impossible for human. Sacrifice the first pawn, sacrifice the second pawn, and hoping that in the end everything would be okay. No. Human brain doesn't work like that. So, of course, evaluation is equal. But as for human, everybody would prefer to play white because white has an easy plan, black hasn't. Let's return to the fifth board. Black decided not to change the rook after the rook d6. So Ronak played king d7. And he lost. Not he lost. Lost or not lost? That's the question. Technically, pawn f2 is died. Nobody can protect it one more time, so that decision was solved. Rook b6, right? Wait, not here. Here. Rook b6. Computer said that right now king h3 gives us I do not understand something, sorry. Discovered attack with a check. Here. Returning. Check. Computer-oriented analysis is not very comfortable for human, because as for me, this position invites favor completely. They have an extra pawn, their pawn chain on c3, b5, very healthy, pawn promoting. Right now, an extra pawn on f4, we do not feel that. But computer says equal, and you cannot argue with him because he is a computer. It's unfair. So that's why I'll clothe him. That's my right. So king wanna go from the discovered attack. I completely understand the king. So king h3 sounds okay. And the hand of Arseny showed the same, but king goes to the opposite way. King f1. Okay. Good decision or not? We'll see that. As for the fourth board, something changed? Oi. Oi. Without an engine, it looks scary. Let's analyze it together. Lucian lay against Zemlyansky 1. So black has a eternal weakness on h5. We discussed that 100 times. And the main idea of black was a counterattack in the queen side with a5 and all this stuff. But technically right now it looks like black has a problems into the queen side. Am I correct? That's a pin, this pawn is hanging, that's a specific threat of taking that and having an extra pawn. I don't know, of course, black has a more initiative king in the center of the board. But king is a king, number of pawns is number of pawns, that's the difference. Oh, let's try to check something. d4, counter attack into the center. Yeah, technically black was in the corner. Not in the materialistic corner, but, you know, emotionally, metaphorically in the corner, so they need to create a counter threat or resign. Two options. So d4 takes, the only move take, back takes, and I'm not sure takes here. For example, if takes, check or something like that. Oh my god, what's happening here? I don't understand nothing, completely nothing. But let's try to evaluate. So, you need to be risky sometime, right? Maybe draw. Maybe not. Haha, so good information for you. Maybe draw, maybe not. Two variations, so 50-50. Okay, what my engine says me. Okay, I come to terms that my qualification isn't enough to this bishop endgame. Okay, plus 4 pawns in white's favor. Why? How you... h4. That's a breakthrough to create a promoted pawn. I can understand that. Okay, f5 for example. Closer, I wanna stay in the place. a7, I wanna stay. Bishop d1. Our king is enough close to hang this pawn in any case, so that's why everything is broken. Okay, am I right that right now? Yep. It looks like the situation in the game completely in white's turn. This pawn looks scary, looks terrifying, and without an endgame in your computer, you know, it really is terrifying. But computer offers us a good idea to put our white king closer to the c3 pawn, for example on f3, and after that our bishop, white bishop, becomes free. He can go whatever he wants to, d1 or something else, because that's not a threat because of king d2. And after king d4, for example a6, check, can we go ahead? Is that an option? That's an option. Completely, that's an option. By the way, the fifth board was finished with a draw right here. So, interesting. We stopped on the situation. The threat of discovered attack. Check and king goes f1. Bishop e3. Bishop c4 with an idea. Takes, and finally a draw. Computer says the same, that's right now we have an equal situation. As for me, it's not so easy to understand why and where. So white has an extra pawn. That's a threat. And so what? Check, goes away. One small question. For example, playing white, I want to keep my pawn alive and play something like bishop e2, h5, b5. Ah, this pawn cannot go ahead as I want to. Okay, I wanted to use that. h4, going ahead. h3. In any case, I want to be promoted. Ah. A big mistake, huge mistake, as in the movie, right? Huge mistake, enormous mistake. Okay. I realize that the idea is very dangerous for the white, and we haven't an options really good to protect our pawn. Maybe that's why the evaluation is equal. So we have the last game right now. Lucian Lei plays with Ivan Zemlyansky, as you see at your screens. That's a process of capitalization, the advantage in this position. So h5 pawn is really problematic one. And right now, after king stays on e3, black has really prepared for that idea. They can do with their bishop whatever they want. Completely whatever. So, of course, bishop g4 is prohibited because we have two pawns and king cannot prevent the both ones. So that's why pawn dies. And everybody with the pawn. Yes, I'm not a very optimistic commentator, but I'm realistic. That's a better one. Lucian Lei has 1 minute in his clock, Ivan has 40 seconds. But that's enough. Maybe we have some plans that I didn't show you before. They are thinking about something, right? So that means that we have something a3, a3, a3. a3 means a3. I think and every move of white right now is going to win position. It's impossible to ruin something. Maybe that's about king maneuvers. Don't know. Let's discuss. Bishop e4. So let's one more time. If I just wanna play here and king d4 in that variation. Yeah. So many options to capitalize. But the fun fact, maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe the idea of black was something like that. That's why Lucian Lei decided to play a3. That's only thoughts, not facts, but. Okay. King goes to c5. And bishop d1. Yep, it was in the game, it's predictable. And that idea was prepared for the last moves. So right now, in 47th moves, this pawn finally will die. Ouch, what's happening? I haven't an option to take here? Yeah, that's a draw, guys. I do not understand, but it's funny. Takes. Help me to explain, please. f5, the only move. h6 looks like, we have a queen, but f4 takes g3. Sorry? He blundered his bishop? Or where? Ah, no. a6. a6. Bishop takes d1. And after a7, we have an option with c2. King d2. And bishop f3. Oh my god. Guys, did you see that? I've seen. Oh my god. The top rating player in the tournament, Lucian Lei, lost his bishop in one move, right here, and that's the first round. What will be in the next round? I'm shocked. Completely shocked. Of course, all of us are humans, and that happens. But I really shocked. As other viewers, I think. So this game was really hard for Ivan because he has hard things in the whole game according to h5 pawn. But in the last minutes of the first round, this bishop dies. So, small mistake in the calculation. Very small mistake of the calculation. And everything goes in opposite way. So it was bishop d1 just going in the side, and everything is okay. +4 in white's favor. But a6. And after bishop d1, it's time to resign. Whoo, raha. Interesting ending of the first round. I think everybody is shocked by this end. But technically, that's the moments which make every sport interesting for us. The whole situation, the whole evaluation, everything can change in one moment. Just continue to struggle. Okay, our next tournament will start in 2 hours. Right now is 2 p.m. in local time. So the first round of Karpov International Chess Tournament will start in 4 p.m. I hope you'll see the next round too, but right now it's time to stop. Thank you for watching. I'm waiting you for the next rounds. Goodbye.